Hi guys, so I recently hit 2,000 subscribers to my channel, and I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's subscribed and everyone who's taken something from the videos that I've done. Hopefully they've all been helpful, useful. I get plenty of comments, questions, things like that, which is exactly what I wanted from this channel. You know, I wasn't looking to grow it too massively, but it's gone really big, and I'm really pleased with all of the feedback that I get from it. As part of having 2,000 subscribers, it seems a little bit rude that I haven't put anything on the channel publicly for a while. So what I thought I'd do is do a relatively quick update with what I've been doing over the last month or two, and why I've been quiet, and what's coming up in the future, to make sure that everyone knows that there is more stuff to be looked at. You can see there's an array of flying devices here, some you've seen before, some you haven't, and a few other parts. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over some of those, talk about them very briefly, and then I'll go from there with some more videos after that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is talk a little bit more about the Immersion RC Zong V2 Pro, as you see in front of you. Now, as you've probably seen from my other videos, I've already done the build video, which Immersion RC are actually using now within their manual, some update videos. I've been flying it a huge amount. I've also been working very closely with Immersion RC via email and a few other guys who had some of the early frames, just in discussion to try and rid the frame of a couple of jitters that seem to have occurred. It doesn't seem to be happening with everyone, but for some reason there seems to be an oscillation or a vibration. It's a little bit more than jello when it does occur, and it just seems to give a certain wobble, a certain oscillation within the footage. Sometimes it's barely noticeable, but sometimes it comes on, it's very strong and it's almost unusable. Very strange there. So I've been working via email with all of these people in various different countries. I want to say thank you to all of them now as well, because all of that collaboration for me just adds to the hobby. It just makes it even more interesting. You know, it's all well and good just building a frame, getting it up there, flying it, doing the footage, but for me it's all about kind of building on top of that, and that just adds to the interest in it. Now, on top of that, being that I'm really happy with this frame, I've also been doing quite a large amount of tinkering myself, as you can see from the various bits of silver here. The other thing that's actually arrived is one of these. And as you can see, that is the Ultimaker 2 3D printer. Now, basically, I've been doing 3D printing for a while. I've been using Shapeways as my kind of outlet store. So in other words, I've been designing in 3D, I've been uploading to the Shapeways store. If I want to prototype something, I have to order it, pay the full price for it, wait for it to arrive, 10 days later it comes in. I can then test to see whether it works. Prime example would be something like this, which is just a little GoPro adapter for the 700 TVL Fat Shark camera. I basically wanted to find out whether or not my measurements for the camera were correct and that it would fit in and it would slot together. So with my own 3D printer, it now allows me, on the cheap as it were, to print it straight away and be able to see it within, you know, a few hours time. I can get a half decent print that will at least give me an idea of whether my dimensions are right. So so this was kind of like one of the first things off the printer. Quality actually is better than I thought it would be. It's not to a grade that I would be selling these. I'm not intending to sell these now online. I'm still going to go through Shapeways because it's global. However, it was just a really good investment from my point of view, because it means I can spend more time designing, prototyping, and again adding to the hobby, and then giving other people the opportunity to share in some things that, you know, they may not have tried themselves. I still encourage anyone though, you can get 3D software, CAD software like Google SketchUp, with companies like Shapeways where you can get it printed without having to own a printer. I really do advise that you know, maybe spend a bit of time on some YouTube videos and learn a bit of that, because it is very fulfilling when you can actually physically hold a part that you've designed. And again, if it becomes helpful and other people want it, you can put it on Shapeways and you can make a small amount of money from doing that, which is all, for me, gets fed back into the hobby and allows me to continue doing all of these videos. So anyway, as part of this, with the Zong, like I did with the V1, unfortunately I decided to go the route of basically spoiling Immersion RC's design. The first things that I actually did as part of testing the jitter, I wanted to just make sure for myself whether or not it was the anti-vibration spheres, these little rubber spheres here, which there's normally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 round here. They're basically, hold the PDB board to the frame underneath it. I wanted to know whether or not it was those that were causing the problem, so I created this kind of clamping system. So these are little clips that go in there, and it just clamps everything. It means that it can't wobble around, which is what it was doing before. My theory was maybe it was a case of when you had a strong gust of wind that it would wobble the frame, which obviously had the camera attached to it, but it wouldn't wobble the motors, and because the NAS was in the frame, whether it would do anything like that. Now with a bit of testing, so far it's a little bit inconclusive. I found that when I did originally put kind of a lighter version of this clamp in, it didn't resolve the problem, there were still jitters. When I clamped it down fully, after that I found that it wasn't too bad, however there was still something there. So I'm not convinced that this is actually the way forward. For me at the moment it is working, however, but that is because I've actually moved away from the original Immersion RC Vortex G3 gimbal, and I've decided to try and fit the DJI Zenmuse H3 3D, which you can see here. So to do that, all I've done is I've basically, well, started with a prototype bracket. This holds onto the frame with the standard fixing points, which I can show you here. So there's one there, and another one here, and there's actually one in the middle here. So it's somewhat over-engineered at the moment. It's quite a thick plastic that I've gone for. It takes quite a while to 3D print this off, and there's still, as you can see here, some warping, there's some adhesion problems that I've got, but that's all 3D print stuff for the moment that I can work around. But ultimately, the proof was in the pudding, and I'll show you some footage, well, right now in fact. You'll see a little overlay of some of the original footage. That was actually from the Mark II version, which is pretty much identical to the final version, but it doesn't have these supports here, so this area is completely blank, whereas on this one you can see there's actually a support material. The idea is to try and reduce the vibration or the ability to kind of wobble up and down, so that's why I've made it quite thick. If I can make it work, I will be selling these on Shapeways, so people who do have the V2 Pro have the option of using the H3 3D. The only caveat to it is you do have to raise the frame slightly, in the same way that I did when I actually mounted the G3 Ultra gimbal. Basically all I've done is, this is the standard frame, that's the standard frame bolt there. It's a little bit dark here unfortunately, but this is a 35mm standoff with one of the Immersion RC rubber feet on it, and all that does is it raises the whole thing up there. You can see actually, if you swing to the back here, that's one of the original feet here, and that's one of my feet, so I've only put about 1 inch extra height on it. So other than that, it's fairly compact. You can still fold it up, you can still get everything. And the other thing that I did before this, which is worth mentioning because I think it was an excellent modification, Rude Boy FPV on RC groups, he came around with a way of mounting the Vortex G3 Ultra 3-axis gimbal using a certain orientation method that allowed you to actually clamp it to the frame in this kind of orientation. It worked very well. Basically all you do is you reverse the IMU. I did actually do a how-to video which I haven't released, and I'll probably send that out there anyway. I don't want to take any of the credit for the modification because I didn't come up with it, but I felt that I could probably demonstrate it at least on my channel, so it might be helpful to a few people. So post me a comment if you'd like to see that. If you do have a G3 Ultra, it worked quite well on there. The thing that I find with the G3 Ultra is that unfortunately the three-axis gimbals, nothing beats a Zenmuse, and I still believe firmly that £250 is a very reasonable amount of money. I didn't go for the H4 3D, it would fit the same, they're pretty much identical. Even though I have a Hero 4, I can modify this one, and I didn't want to pay the extra £100 plus the amount for the GCU, which you have to do. But anyway, so that's the Zong V2 Pro and where I'm at with it. Like I say, I'll post some links to some more videos so you can see how it performs, but please don't think for a second that you need to have all of this. Don't be afraid to just buy the frame as it is with the gimbal, the 2-axis gimbal. People say, oh, 2-axis, well, I'm not sure about that. 2-axis really isn't that bad. The key to a 2-axis gimbal on a quadcopter is dull down your yaw rates, or have a switch. Create a switch on your transmitter that puts a little bit of dual rate or an expo. Basically the idea being that when you actually move your thumb left and right to create yaw, when you've got that switch flicked, even if you push it all the way over, it will do a nice steady tilt. You'll have less control over it if you're moving fast, but ultimately it's designed for aerial photography. That's the idea, to get smooth, steady shots. And if you do that, actually something like the G3 gimbal can give you a really good result, especially if you do a post edit or anything like that. And even with a few of the jitters coming in when you're going up against the wind, it still gives you some footage that is more than usable. So don't be put off by any of that. Anyway, let's move on to the other things to look at. So there in front of me is a FPV 250 size racer. Now this actually, I bought this on the blind, as it were, from a company. I'll put a link to the company that I bought it from. I can't even remember the name of it, but basically it didn't really have any brand name, anything like that for the frame itself. All I could see was it was a matte finish carbon fibre. It had nice chunky feet, and nice chunky arms, as you can see there, about 4mm. It is actually glass reinforced with a carbon weave around it, so you can see there it's kind of a sandwich layer, but still nice and thick. And the other thing that really appealed to me was, as you can see on the bottom here, it has a built-in PDB, so it has a power distribution board, and also if we look in there, those little pins there are 5-volt outputs, so you can add LEDs, anything like that, and all you need to do is just have a servo wire on the end of it. So you can power your flight controller, you can power whatever you want from it basically, as long as it's 5-volt from those pins, which is a nice little thing. Now it turns out actually when I received it that it is in fact an RC Timer Argonaut AQ250. An RC Timer are quite well known in the business nowadays, so it is a brand make beyond those Chinese ones. My original FPV 250 racer looked something like this. On a complete punt, it cost about 15 quid for the frame, and then I went and bought some Hobby King Multi-Star, I think they are 1704 by 1900 kV motors, completely anemic, barely even lifted itself off the ground. I put a massive great big 4-in-1 ESC on this thing, and yeah, it was useless, so I gave up on that. I will continue with those motors on something else, maybe a cardboard thing, nice and light. Anyway, the reason that I wanted a 250 racing frame is, number one, my piloting is not that good in manual mode by any means. I wanted to learn it. I wanted to have something that was a bit of a destructible frame if needs be. So I thought I'd build something that wasn't, you know, QAV 250 standard, that wasn't £300-400 worth of kit, something that I wouldn't cry about if I destroyed the frame completely. What I did do is I invested in some good T-motor. These are the, I believe they're the 12 amp with Simon K firmware ESCs. You can't see them because they're wrapped around with tape, but I wasn't also going to go for majorly expensive motors, so I actually decided to go for the Emax. These are the Emax 2204 2300 kVs, and what I like about those is they're £10 each, and they come with clockwise and counterclockwise rotating propellers. I haven't done a specific build video on this. I have actually got the components to probably fudge a build video, so if anyone does want to see an Argonaut 250 racing quad build video or partial build video, then please hit me up with a comment, because I can probably cobble something together. I did point a camera at it when I was building it and talk about a few things. Very simplistic though. Standard frame. All I've got is that's the Immersion RC 600mW VTX on the bottom of it, in one of my Shapeways mounts with one of my own 3D print doors on it, in fact. And for a flight controller, I'm actually on this one using CC3D with OpenPilot for the software, which was all a big learning curve. I'd never used it before, but fairly straightforward to use and set up. And then right on the back here, you can see I'm just using an R2008 SB with S-Bus for my my receiver. Just fairly straightforward. And then we've got on the front of it, right down low, we've got the Fat Shark 600 TVL camera in one of my custom Shapeways mounts that I've got. Again, all of these are available on my Shapeways shop if needs be, but a little bit close to the ground, and it doesn't tilt, but still it gives you a decent eye view whilst you're flying, and obviously you put your Mobius there. Now the main reason I wanted to learn this is because I knew that there was something coming out that I was very interested in seeing, and I needed to get a little bit more confident with my flying. Now I have to admit I fell behind on doing that because I was messing around with the Zong so much, so my flying skills in what I would say in acrobatic mode or in manual mode are still pretty horrific, and they need a lot of tuning. So simulation to begin with, then I'm going to go out and do some more flying with it. Anyway, the point being, the next object that you see, which you probably caught a glimpse of before, is the reason why I want to do a bit of practicing, and I'll show you that now. Okay, so the pièce de résistance, as they say, this is the all-new frame. This is the Immersion RC Vortex Racing 250 quad, fold down and everything. Now I'm going to do some videos specifically on this, so I'm not going to go into a massive amount of detail. However, all you need to know for the moment, this comes as kind of an almost ready to fly kit, pre-assembled. It will come with motors. It's a foldable quad, so I can unfold this. You see this little C-clip here, click out that, click out that, click out that, and click out that, and now we have it all unfolded. Very nice, because if you do hit something, then these are going to unclip and fold back on themselves. We've got a nice little anti-jello mount for the Mobius camera on the top. The Mobius, I should state, the Mobius doesn't come with it. However, what does come with it is a 600 TVL camera, which you can see here, which if I look closely, you see there's a little hinge bracket, so you can actually angle it slightly. At the moment mine's pointing straight forward, but you can actually angle it if you want to. I'll try and do now, there we go. So when you're flying at an angle, it will actually be facing forward. So a nice little touch there, and again that's actually strapped, that camera is strapped to the anti-jello mount as well, which is really nice. Now the real key to this this Vortex, which I'll go into more detail about, is the fact that it's got all of its electronics already included, wired up. Inside there you've got all your ESCs, you've got a flight controller, which is basically, as far as I believe, a Naze 32. It uses Clean Flight for the software, similar to Naze 32. It's had an Immersion RC tweak on it, I believe, the actual kind of setup of it, but ultimately everything that you can do in Clean Flight you can do on this board right now, and if you plug in via USB you are controlling Clean Flight. However, there is also Easy OSD, or a version of it, already on this board, so you immediately have an OSD, and it also has an Immersion RC video transmitter embedded right down in there as part of the board as well. So you literally just screw down your Spironet, which I believe will probably come with it, and all you've got to do is add your own receiver, bung it on the back of it, and then do the setup. And as part of the setup, one of the nice things about this is that this is the first racing quadcopter, or any quadcopter as I know, that has this thing called RotoSense. And for anyone who's built a quadcopter, when you add motors, you have to determine which way they turn, and you have 3 wires. And basically, if you want to rotate it, you unplug one of those wires, and 2 of those wires, and you reverse them, and then it will stop spinning and it will change around. That's all well and good, but the problem is if you build it with something this sort of size, you've got to solder, you don't want bullet connectors, you've got to solder it all up. What Immersion RC have done with this RotoSense is that they've made it possible to configure it by literally going into a configuration mode and saying, I would like this motor to spin clockwise, and you manually spin it just like that in that rotation, and basically the pulse goes back to the ESC, and the ESC says, oh, I've been spun in that direction, I'll remember that, that's the way I'm going to spin. Likewise, you then want the counterclockwise on this one, you spin it counterclockwise, beep beep, and it remembers it. So something that is going to, you know, I wouldn't say revolutionise necessarily, but it's going to really make building quads much better. And I know for a fact that Immersion RC are intending to bring them out as separate ESCs at some point. Hopefully that will be for bigger than just 250 quads as well, because I could see that being really useful on bigger builds. But as an all-in-one package, I think this is going to be, you know, a fantastic piece of kit for people who don't want to have to do mini soldering and stuff like that. Again, I can't do this justice in flight. I'm not going to even try and pretend to be as good. I've seen some videos recently from the guys who have had test versions of these sent to them, and they blow my mind. I mean, I've gone out and flown this once. You can in fact see all of the grass stains from when I landed it in a field. My propellers are somewhat chewed up. I can't really do it justice at all at the moment until I've really got, you know, further down the line with it. So I apologise that I can't just suddenly say, here's a picture of me flying through a forest and then ducking under a car and flying under a moving train and going through the middle of a helicopter whilst it's in flight or anything like that. However, all I can say is that if you're looking to get into this, then this is going to be a very good starting point, because it literally comes with everything you need. The one thing that people of course are going to ask me about is the motors. They are the very nice and very expensive, in fact, T motors. These are the 1806 2300 kVs, so they're not the bigger ones, they're not the 2206s, and I have got a couple of questions that I'm waiting to get answered from Immersion RC in regards to what the specs will be, what you will actually get in the box. You know, will there be a 2206 version that you can buy? Will you be able to buy some of them and upgrade them because they've got Pico blade connectors? All sorts of questions like that. Again, I'm going to save that all for separate videos, which I think it deserves. But anyway, that's where I'm at the moment. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So we've got the Zong, we've got this, and we've got the FPV 250. So plenty of practice to be done with these two guys. The other thing that I've got is I have just acquired the E310 kit from DJI. So that is the ESCs, props, and motors. And I'm going to be looking to put that on a frame, possibly a second Zong, so I can continue some testing. But either that or I'll find something else and I'll try another frame out. So lots of things to be looking forward to in the future. And once again, I really just want to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed and has been watching my videos. Please post a comment if you have any specifics, if there's certain things that you'd like to see. If you'd like to see more 3D print stuff in specific, I can go into a bit more detail on that. And yeah, and obviously any future developments, I will let you all know.